Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a dating coach for all abilities, and other than Miss Kathy O'Connell.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, Daniel.
Welcome, Miss Kathy, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Well, one, I am an avid reader and I read all the time, and actually, no pun intended, but I do book and my days with reading in the morning when I get up and reading at night before I go to bed. But other than being an avid reader, I am a licensed mental health counselor and I am a dating and relationship expert, particularly for people with disabilities, helping them to grow self esteem and confidence, particularly in the dating world.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Kathy O'Connell. Thank you. So today, let's talk about why it can be hard to date with disability or other significant differences. So tell us
Well,
the.
there,
Go ahead.
sorry, Dan. I mean, there are many ways that dating with a disability is hard. I tend to put them under the umbrella term of sexual ableism. Now, we as a society don't talk about ableism enough, let alone sexual ableism. And I define sexual ableism as a social discrimination that says just because you have a disability, then labels you as inferior in dating relationships and disability. Now, there are many examples of this, but a very clear one I can give is we hardly ever see representation of people with disabilities, say, in advertising for dating apps. So that's an example of how people with disabilities are oftentimes viewed invincible in the dating world. And that's one of the barriers of many that can be present when you're dating. Others are things like accessibility, others are just not being perceived as dating material. For some people who have communication differences and because of their disability, there can be that communication barrier. There's a lot of barriers out there for people with disabilities. But what I do is work with people on how they specifically can break down those barriers.
Very well said, Miss Kathy. So, before the first date even happens, what are the unique mental and emotional calculations a person with a difference has to make the others might not consider?
Well, a big one is when and how to disclose the disability. Now, if you're someone like me who has a pretty obvious disability, that might not be an issue because you walking in the room will indicate you have a disability. However, there are many people with disabilities where their disability is not evident. So it becomes a question of, do I tell them right away? Do I let them get to know me? And then how do I talk about my disability? And one thing that I recommend is that you begin to practice that ahead of time so that you're comfortable with the way that you're talking about your disability. And I always like to recommend that you do it sooner than later. However, I ultimately say you need to do you and disclose the disability when it feels right for you.
Very well said, Miss Kathy. So, the mainstream love stories rarely center people with differences. How does this lack of narrative representation affect someone's internal script for what their own love story should look like or their sense of deservingness?
Well, when we don't see any representation in books or movies or advertising social media, you can think, well, that's and that's include me or that is sent for me. So part of what I do and I see happening at least on social media these days are that people with disabilities and differences are coming out more in social media and saying, hey, us too, we want to be included too in dating and disability. We want to be considered as potential partners, and that is how we're trying to, what I would say, interrupt that lack of representation in various narratives that we see.
So, Miss Kathy, many with disabilities express frustration with being as seen as inspiration or an object of pity rather than a romantic prospect. How do you navigate the murky waters between someone's genuine interest and their misguided good intentions?
Well, I think that many times when, especially when you have lived with a disability for many years, your intuition really knows when someone is coming from a place and wanting to meaningfully connect with you versus that phony pity place. And I say that pity is simony because pity is a way of not really seeing a person for who they are. When you're in pity, you're in your own story about someone, not about who they are. So I really, when I work with people, I spend a lot of time getting them to trust their intuition that they know they have for it when people are genuine or not. However, I will say one of the challenges is when people are not having a lot of luck in dating and feeling very lonely, almost desperate. It can become easier to mistake pity for genuine affection. And that is when you really need to work on what's going on inside of you that is causing the loneliness and maybe that low self-esteem so that you're not so susceptible to being pulled in by those people who may pity you or not treat you well.
Very well said, Miss Kathy. So, societal, soci- let's say, dating requires emotional energy for everyone. What are the specific, often exhausting extra layers of emotional labor involved in dating with a difference that are invisible to the most people?
What you're asking specifically for disabilities that are invisible to most people? Is that your question, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay. So the extra emotions that can go into that are what I mentioned before. When do you share about your disability? And in that case, if you wait a while to share, then you might be more emotionally invested in the person and may become more anxious about what will happen if you share about your disability. And it's in that constant internal managing of knowing you have a disability or a medical condition or something that is not visibly seen and worrying about how people will perceive it if you talk about it or if some manifestation of it emerges, say someone with epilepsy may have a seizure and worrying about how that will be perceived by other people, which is why I advocate for being upfront with people as soon as you can, because then that alleviates some of the internal pressure to keep something within yourself and to hold back on sharing about your disability.
Very well said, Miss Kathy. So let's talk about the assess as an afterthought. Dating is a built around social activities, isn't it? Like dinner, drinks, movies. How does the pervasive inaccessibility of the physical and social world automatically filter out potential connections or create a frustrating barriers from the very start?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it filters out, but it does make planning and communicating about the plan more tricky. So, in terms of accessibility, one has to really investigate, say you're going out to dinner, is the restaurant accessible? If you have a visual impairment, is there alternative format to the menu that you can read? If we're talking about how to get to a date because you may not drive, we're looking at okay, accessible transportation. How will I communicate that? So there's a lot of planning that goes into considering accessibility on dates. But I actually just thought back up quickly and just raising people's awareness that oftentimes dating apps are inaccessible the way they are built, or say they're only on the mobile device. Well, that can rule out many people with physical disabilities who do better with a bigger screen on desktop. So I always like to bring that up in case we have any dating app developers listening, because that is a key inaccessibility right now in dating.
Miss Kathy, as a dating coach, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
For the people that I work with,
Yes,
okay,
please.
so when I coach some people on dating and relationships, I always ask them what their goal is, because in my coaching, what we do is we work not only on self esteem and confidence, but actually getting a dating plan going of how you're gonna put yourself out there. So that's my short term goal with people. Now my bigger longer term goal when you coach with me is that the coaching not only increases your self-esteem and confidence for dating, but hopefully in other areas of your life too, because as we know from research, when you build a skill in one area, it can often be applied to other areas of your life. So I like to say that I obviously want you to get a date. I want you to get the second, third, fourth date, and I want your confidence, your self worth to increase on the whole.
Yes, good luck to your goals, Miss Kathy, and looking forward for more success. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yes, I would say, even though I have read countless books, the one that comes into mind is Marie Forleo's Forleo. Her book, she came out in 2019. Everything is figure outable. It is the best self help book out there, and it can show you how whatever circumstance, challenge in your life you have, it is figure outable, which is the basics of what I do with people is help them figure out how to date successfully.
Well, Miss Kathy, thank you for that recommended book. And what would be your piece of advice for those people that don't want to be a coach like you?
That want to be a coach or want to coach.
Yes.
And are they people who want to be a coach or to get coached?
Or want to be a coach?
Want to be a coach? I would say to look at what area you want to coach with, because the field of coaching has come a long way, and nowadays you just can't be a life coach. It really is some beneficial to specialize in a particular niche, like I do with dating for people with disabilities. So look at what group of people, what problem you really want to work within.
Well, thank you for that advice, Miss Kathy. Before you wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in sixth season, Abstract Poetry in third season, and my Book 101 Review in sixth season too, Comedy 101 third season, and my Food 101 in sixth season as well, Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101 are in fifth season, the Science 101, Sex 101, and it's fourth season, and my Spiritual Awakening 101, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Kathy, what is the one thing you wish you could go back and tell to your younger self about love, connection, and worthiness as you began your dating journey?
I would tell her to not sweat so much, that there will be bumps in the road, but in the end, they lead to the right person. And every breakup, every failed date is meant to be.
Certainly. And Miss Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your coaching, or whatever projects you want to promote on Book 101? Miss
Here,
Kathy,
just, yeah,
please invite our listeners to support you.
here, just to go to relatabilityllc.com, and you can find out all about my coaching, training, and speaking.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Kathy O'Connell because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering coaching to rise. So, Miss Kathy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been a pleasure.
Monica, people, see you soon.